Okay, right now I am with Sihle Lonzi, the president of EFF-SC, which is Student Command. Congratulations firstly on EFF-SC turning 8 years and also the 10th year anniversary of EFF as a whole. So firstly, since it's your first time in Soshanguve, how has Soshanguve welcomed you?
No, the students of Soshanguve, they love the EFF Students Command. I was particularly impressed when they waited, even when there was load shedding. But they said we have to listen to the message. There is no amount of load shedding, there is no amount of ANC sabotage that will stop them from the programs of the EFF-SC. So I'm very happy with the branch here. I'm very happy with the response from the ground and the students. So I'm happy to be here. I'm home.
So do you feel that the manifesto served its purpose today?
So today it was to really inspire a certain level of hope and confidence, and that is the nature of manifesto rallies. But now the SRC, the branch, must then still go and engage students, have intimate discussions with students, whether they meet them one by one, whether they meet them in residencies. So that is where you persuade and convince. These type of things, they are there to galvanize, to bring up the emotions, just to get the spirits high. But the branch must still go and do the work and persuade the students.
So since the elections are taking place, since the elections are taking place on the 4th to the 6th of September, what can students expect from EFF? What sets them apart from the other organizations?
Look, one of the important messages we made here is that SRC candidates and members of the EFF Students Command must possess a different character from those of SASCO. So we talked about behavioral things. We talk about issues of drinking alcohol.
If we shumane, even if you have a position or shumane, stop using your position to sleep with girls on campus. If you can't talk to girls, don't use your position.
Liking girls on campus, changing the attitude. If when you were not an SRC member, you are wearing Adidas like me, then when you become an SRC member, you are wearing Fabian. So you ought to be different even at a level of character, because it is the character that will now feed into the things that you do in office. So I think that's what students must look forward to say there is a different type of an SRC member that is not like that of these baby criminals of the ANC.
So since the annual BRICS summit happened in South Africa this year, do you feel that them adding more countries will add to the economy, and also do you think it will bring changes with regards to students funding, youth employment?
Look, we're happy with the BRICS plus 6. I think it's a very progressive step towards the de-dollarization. So as you would know, there's a huge hegemony of the United States. Even when you do international trade, the international currency that you use is dollars. So the unity that we're seeing, it's going to start to decrease the hegemony of the US when it comes to the world economy. But what we're also seeing is that it's now going to expand the GDP for the countries involved. So this really, if you know about the G7, it's a hard contestation between the G7 and BRICS. But we want more countries to join, and we want black African states. We're happy with the Saudis, we're happy with the South American countries, the Argentinas, the Iran, the UAE, we're happy. But we also want to see black African states. For example, I don't see why Nigeria is not added, because Nigeria, if I'm not mistaken, even has a higher GDP than South Africa. So we're happy because those are the type of opportunities which, as you mentioned, will raise investment into South Africa so that we can invest in education, we can invest in energy, we can invest in hospitals. So we must have that international partnership with all the progressives in the world.
So during the manifesto, you said 2024 is our 1994. So what does that mean in the context of next year's elections?
So what is important for students to understand is that all these problems we're experiencing on campus, we can protest until our shoes get worn out and we buy new ones. But ultimately, whilst you still have the ANC in government, none of these issues are going to be resolved. Let's look at the issue of free education. We can protest all we want, but ultimately it must be an ANC president or an ANC minister that must sign it and say, let there be free education in South Africa. Let's look at the situation of student debt. We can protest, we can fight with vice chancellors, we can do everything, but ultimately it ought to be treasurer, it ought to be the Minister of Higher Education who says, let us cancel all student debt. What does that mean? It means as young people, we must not limit our struggle to campus. We must be concerned about who is in government. So we say we must remove them from campus next year. We must also remove them from government next year.
And last question, you encourage the young people here to vote next year. Why do you think that young people in South Africa are hesitant to vote?
So what the ANC has done very well is that it has raised the level of apathy amongst young people. So youth in the apartheid era was very active. I mean, even many of the ANC ministers and leaders are products of youth movements. So what they then do, they depoliticized the youth of South Africa. They plunged them into these entertainment things. Now the youth are focusing on things that are not necessarily important. So our role is to bring back the consciousness of youth. If you look at the number of unregistered voters, young people constitute more than 50% of that population. I mean, the old people, really, we should not even be focusing on them. I think they are less than 1 million, the ones who are really, really old. So it is the youth. If the youth can take a stand, if the youth can take a decision, the ANC will be removed from government.
Right. Thank you so much for your time. I'm with Sihle Lonzi, who is the president of EFF-SC. I'm signing out.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Picture now. Oh,
Hey,